You're listening to Fathers Handling Business, where fatherhood meets real talk and real solutions. Here are your hosts, Donté Witherspoon and Dwyan Marsh, ready to dive deep into the art and science of parenting. Let's get started and empower the dad in you.
Welcome back to Fathers Handling Business. I am Dwyan Marsh with my co-host here,
Donté.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about supporting your children's emotional well-being and how you can do that. Donté here is what are you?
Yeah, so I am a licensed marriage and family therapist.
Okay.
I have a background in psychology, and I also have a background in early childhood education. It's something that I'm very passionate about.
Okay.
I love kids, I love human beings, and I love helping people.
So today we're gonna go through a couple of things that's and a couple of practical steps you can take to help your children in their emotional well-being. So COVID really affected our children the most.
Yes.
In my just what we're seeing. We're seeing the effects of COVID. And when I say COVID, I just mean the lockdown period, right? Like the period of time where there was no connection. It was all social media only, you know what I'm saying? And then here in America, we went through like a racial awakening or whatever they want to call it. And, so they saw the George Floyd thing. They saw the police brutality was like put on Front Street, full display. They saw the fear mongering going on, and they saw all of this stuff. But as a adolescent, as a teen, as a kid, it's one thing to see it, but it's another thing to like emotionally process it.
Right.
And I feel 4 years later, we are seeing the effects of that.
Absolutely. So you hit the nail on the head. So there were different stages of COVID and how it affected all of us, right?
Right.
Especially kids who were already born and kind of like living life a little bit and saw life how it was before, pre-COVID, right? Mm-hmm. And then experiencing COVID with, like you said, no connection with human beings, like other than your immediate family.
Right.
And then how that affected them and how then they, got brought back into like life as we know it as like COVID never existed.
Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of wild because there's that, that time period where it kind of had not just a lot of adults confused, but the kids confused as well. And as adolescents, you're soaking up information. And like you mentioned, all those things that occurred, like you're soaking up information and not knowing what to do with the information, not knowing how to process that information. It's huge.
Correct.
And so if we are not putting our best foot forward and helping support our kids' emotional well-being, then they're going to try to figure it out on their own, which is not always the best thing to do. Mm-hmm. It's where a lot of fear comes into place, anxiety, depression.
Right.
And if they don't have an outlet, if they don't have someone to talk to, someone to bounce questions off of, someone to give them understanding as to what happened, what went on, what is going on, and what will happen later, then they're gonna have a rough time.
Right. So one of the things that we talked about is having or teaching your kids like emotional vocabulary. Right. So there's a lot of these buzzwords that are being thrown around now. And you just said some, anxiety, depression, people in their feelings. Like what do those things mean, and how can, when they show up, like how can we deal with them? So, for instance, my one of my sons, he graduated in the COVID year.
Okay.
So
graduated out of high school?
Yes,
okay.
Graduated high school. So I had a son that graduated in 2020. Mm-hmm. Then I had a son that graduated in 2021.
Got it.
When we were still in the thick of it. Like, it was still like, social distancing and blah, blah, blah. And then I had a son who is about to graduate this year. So he was just entering high school when that, stuff was going on, when COVID first started.
Okay.
And, he kind of went into a funk. Like he kind of turned into, like, he was already turning into a man and trying to figure out who he was, but now he has to deal with all of this stuff on top of it. Right. And, he wore a mask all the way until, like, last year. You know what I'm saying? Like,
really?
Oh, yeah. Like, he wasn't having it. He wasn't trying to be around. And it really affected our relationship, because it went from, them seeing me all the time, and I'm picking them up, I'm taking them to church, et cetera, mm-hmm. to we doing workouts over Zoom. You know what I'm saying? Because his mother was like, no, like, you can't come in the house, like, I don't want you to, and so it was the relationship there. It kind of fractured a little, not a little bit, but a lot, because of everything that we didn't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were all, I'm guilty of this, getting groceries and wiping down my groceries, you know what I'm saying? Because we didn't know, what was on them, or if they were this, or if they were that. And so, how, when these things pop up, like, how can we teach our kids this emotional vocabulary, and then what to do with them? Like, once they know these words, and once they know, like, they have anxiety. I've heard a lot of people say, well, it's my anxiety, and they kind of just use that as a crutch. Right. You know what I'm saying? But, like, what can we do to mitigate it? Right.
Well, it's funny that you say that. Like, what a lot of people don't realize is that feeling that you get, that feeling of anxiety, it's fear, really. Right. It's fear of the unknown, or sometimes it's fear of something in particular. A lot of times when someone doesn't know, if they just have that overwhelming feeling, that anxiety, and they can't put their finger on it, that's kind of like the hard part, especially if you're young and you don't know how to articulate what you're feeling.
Right.
If you're older, and you can express, like, what you're feeling, when you're feeling it, why you're, like, then, like, we can work with you. Okay. A lot of times it's, getting them either help, number one, with someone who knows how to pull out the right, ask the right questions to pull out answers that we need to get.
And when you say help, do you mean like therapy? Do you mean like talking to a pastor?
A therapist, a counselor. Not all pastors, have those the mental health background and credentials. Mm. Some do. But yeah, so, like, it's one of those things where you kind of, as a parent, right, you got to gauge, like, am I capable of helping my child?
And that's another thing I wanted to touch on is, what if they don't have the resources, right, to go see someone such as yourself, whether it's the money or the time or whatever it is. Like, what is something that they can do as a parent to kind of connect with their kid when they're dealing with these type of issues?
So the number one thing is, depending on how old your child is or children are, the number one thing is opening up a line of communication, letting your kids know that you are there for them for whatever they're going through. They can ask you any question, they can tell you anything, and they're not going to be judged for it. They're not going to be in trouble for it, like, whatever the case may be. Some kid may come to you and say, like, hey, like, I've been having these feelings. I was sharing it with a friend. They told me that if I smoke weed, that those feelings will go away.
Right.
Even if it's that, right, and you don't believe in that, still allow them to tell you, still allow them to share that with you.
So just putting that into a box here, that what you're basically saying is creating a safe space.
Yes, 1000%.
for your kids. And it's a little bit different because as a parent and sometimes as a single parent, kids may look at you as the disciplinarian, right?
Yeah.
And so it's hard to come at somebody who's the disciplinarian,
right,
and really open up. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you have to intentionally create the safe space. Right. And I like what you said in one of our previous episodes, just about actually having a time where you talk as a family,
right,
and we talk about, like, what are you thankful for? What are you dealing with? What do you like about your sister? Or what do you like about
right,
me? Or just intentionally creating a time on the weekend or whenever you have 30 minutes to where you guys come together and you have a roundtable discussion, and actually creating that safe space, not just saying, hey, you can come talk to me whenever.
Right.
Like, that really doesn't mean anything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But actually creating a safe space and doing it on a consistent basis, right, to where, like, every week or every other week or whenever, that, this is our amnesty time where we can just talk, what I'm saying? We can have a heart-to-heart conversation. I'm not going to judge you. You're not going to judge me. We're just going to talk.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So at least that's what I'm hearing you say, actually intentionally creating that safe space,
yes,
and doing it consistently, even when nothing's wrong.
Exactly.
Right? Because when you're creating this safe space, you don't want to do it when, and correct me when I'm wrong, if I'm wrong, you don't want to do it when there's something wrong, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you don't want to start it then. Like, you want to start it when things are going right. I guess you can start it whenever, but you want to start it with some positivity, with some thankfulness. Feel free to chime in.
No, so you're right. You want to start it. You can start it whenever, but
right,
but you want to present it in a way that this is a time where we share, like, everything that's going on, good, bad, ugly. It doesn't matter, right? And it's always great for a parent to share what they're going through too. Like, and
that part.
It's being transparent with your kids, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you don't have to. Some stuff your kids can know about, and then some stuff obviously you keep private. But just being open and transparent with your kids about certain things that they're privy to hearing and knowing about, that is key, because then you're showing them that it's okay.
Right.
You're showing them that it's okay to talk about the hard stuff. You know what I mean?
Right. Just being a little bit more open and, what we call modeling emotional regulation.
Exactly.
Being able to show your children, like, how you manage your stuff. So my son, he started teaching, mm-hmm, right? And so he texted me like, Dad, I spoke today, like at a high school, in front of some kids. And he was like, man, I was super nervous, mm-hmm, and blah, blah, blah. And so I kind of just told him, like, hey, before I go on stage, I always used to get super nervous. And so one of the things that I used to do was this breathing technique, what I'm saying? And it kind of calmed my nerves. And so I explained to him the whole breathing technique, and, and he was like, oh man, that's dope. You know what I'm saying? So now he has a tool that he can use when he does his next event or next speaking engagement. But, just being able to be honest with him and show him how I handle the stress and the nervous. And I tell him, like, yo, I've been going on stages for years and years, but every time, before I go on the stage, I still get those butterflies.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, that just kind of shows that you care, that you want to be the best and, right, want to do your best, but when you get those butterflies and you get that nervous energy, like, mm-hmm, here is how you handle it, So, just being able to model that for your kids, so that they can have some tools to go forward with.
Right. Absolutely. That is huge, and that is key. Another thing, sometimes, like if you're dealing with like a toddler, a little bit older than a toddler, I used to do this with my kids all the time. Whenever there is something big that we're going to announce, like divorce or like, I would find a book to read to them. So like, and this can go, it doesn't matter what age, but I did it often at a young age with my kids because, they were used to, sitting at story time at school.
Okay.
Right. And they can connect to what is being said to them or what is being read to them. And so that's one of the things that I would highly suggest is books. Books it's a great informational tool at every age level. You obviously have to pick the appropriate type of books depending on the age of your child or children, but using books as a tool, because it's not like sometimes there's a disconnect with a parent and a child, and they may not want to look you in your eye.
Right.
They may not want to share what's going on, but maybe as a parent, what's going on, and you're not sure how to address it with them. But there's a book that has a scenario based on whatever scenario that your child or your family is going through, and you can read that book, and then it will open up lines of communication. Everything's leading back to the communication. That's how we're helping with the emotional well-being of our children, is talking about it, right? So yeah, like books. Is another tool.
Okay. And another tool is coming down to their level, things that they like to do, whether that's playing video games or playing outside, their activities. I know your son's into baseball.
Yeah.
My son was into basketball. So, when we used to practice at the court, that's when we had some of our greatest conversations.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because we're just in there shooting, or going through drills or whatever. And then we're actually talking, about whatever, For my other son, he was really into Legos.
Okay.
So he would lock himself in the room for hours and hours and hours and try to make these extravagant Lego things. And then, then we would talk about it, and he would tell me, oh, well, it took me 5 hours to get this door to work, and, that kind of stuff. And just being able to, have them be in a place where they feel comfortable talking about whatever it is. And then we talk about, the emotional stuff.
Yeah.
Like, how did that make you feel? You know what I'm saying? How did you feel as you were doing this? And getting them used to talking about their emotions in a way that is healthy, in a way that encourages them to understand that, these emotions are cool to have. You know what I'm saying? Even when they're not going the right way, even when things are not going the right way, encouraging them to do that. And so what role do you think that therapy can play, in the child's well-being? So
therapy, it can serve as a tool to get someone to open up about whatever they're feeling inside, right? A great therapist will ask all the right questions, right? There's a lot of therapists out there that will just talk and give information.
Okay.
But a great therapist will ask the right questions and pull whatever you're feeling, all the things that you're feeling out of that person. And so that's the key. Like you want to be able to have a safe space to express your feelings.
Okay.
And emotions. And so
once you express these feelings, so let's just say we created our safe space and, they express their feelings. So what's the next step after that? So, we got the safe space. They're expressing their feelings and they're telling us, whatever they're telling us.
Yeah, so
right?
it depends on whatever they're telling us, right? So depending on what they're telling us, then we now know how we can help them.
Gotcha.
So like if we have a teenager who is struggling at school because people are bullying them and they want to commit suicide.
Okay.
That's common. That's really common, especially now with social media. I mean, the bullying doesn't have to be physical. Like when we were growing up, the bullying happens behind the little, phones and computer screens.
Right, by what they say now. Yeah.
Right. And so then you now have you now have something to work with. So, all right, my son, my daughter, they're getting bullied at school. It's being done virtually, and so then you can go through the right channels, get that squared away, and then get them help however they need help. It's about advocating for your children as well. Once you figure out what's going on in their lives and advocating for them, like, okay, well, I understand that you're feeling this because this happened, and so we're going to do this to help with that.
Got you. So what advice would you give, parents who are dealing with teenagers who are going through, their teenage years, like that? I always say like that 15 to 17 age for boys, especially. That's when they are, trying to buck against the system a little bit and trying to figure out who they are as men. And so they kind of want to come up against you as a father, kind of assert their dominance a little bit. That's when they start being secretive, you know what I'm saying? And, lying and, maybe hanging out with the wrong crowd. So how would you approach a situation where a son is being secretive, want to be in his room, want to close the door, you know what I'm saying? Recently, one of my friends, like, he found like a burner phone from under his son's pillow. Okay. After his son told him like, no, I lost my older phone, my other phone, but then he like found it and he was, on there. So how would you approach something like that, to where the kids are obviously doing something behind your back? You've done what we talked about, creating that safe space and all that kind of stuff. Like how would you approach something like that?
Well, I mean, every situation is different, right? Obviously. Because there's no cookie cutter answer for this. But I would say it depends on whatever that kid is doing. But whatever, and for every action, there's a consequence. Correct. Whether it's a good consequence or a bad consequence. Correct. And I think that letting your child know that there are consequences, and you share this with your kids from an early age, but you still have to remind them. Right. I remember you sharing with me, like, as your kids go through these different phases, it's like learning how to be, they're like a toddler all over again as they go through these different stages of life. And so you got to remind them about the choices that we make in life. There are consequences, good and bad. And so, number one, just voicing that. And then if you learn about what's going on, sometimes what helps is like showing them, okay, like, here's the pros and cons of what you're doing. Because why do kids do what they do? Let's ask that question. Why do they do what they do?
Peer pressure is one. Okay. Trying to be cool. Wanting the approval of their peers. Right. That's the main thing. Right. In my opinion, that's the main thing. Is you want to be the bee's knees. You want to be cool. You want to be something that maybe you saw. Right. So you want to be something that you saw. Right. And then that you are trying to figure out your identity at some point. Like, what am I? Who am I going to be? How am I going to? And sometimes kids may not verbalize it like that,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Because they're not thinking, like that. But that's basically what they're going through as young men, adolescents is, like, who am I going to be?
Who am I?
Who am I? What am I? Like, how do I identify myself?
Right.
One of my friends is going through it with his son, who is he wants to be a football player, right? But he's not good at football. You know what I'm saying? But he changed his whole identity to emulate a star football player.
Okay.
Right?
He said, I'm going to fake it till I make it.
Right. You know what I'm saying? But he's not putting in the work.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But that's kind of what he saw and what he wants to emulate. I got another friend who, he's a basketball player.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And while he's good at basketball, he's not, putting in the work that it takes to be on the next level, because we as parents, we know what it takes. We seen, like, hey, it takes a lot of work,
right.
You know what I'm saying? So obviously, like you said, your daughter, she's doing all of the stuff, you know what I'm saying, that you didn't even ask her to do,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Because she wants it bad,
right.
So when a kid really wants it bad. So yeah, it's one of those things where, why do they do what they do? It's because, in my opinion, they're trying to figure out who they are.
Right. Yeah. You hit the nail on the head again. Identity. And I would even say, I know you said, between 15 and 17 age, but even going further back to right around preteen, their kids are trying to figure out who they are. And a lot of the times it stems from who they're around, right?
Correct. Correct.
And so
all the time.
I mean, I even remember being in 6th grade and the friends who I hung around with, I literally wanted to be just like them.
Of course.
And so sometimes as parents, we have to show whatever we have to show our kids exactly who we're going to turn out to be if we continue down that pathway. Yeah.
Right.
And there's so many different ways where we can show them. There's so many different movies, videos. We have so much information at our fingertips now, way more than we've ever had before.
Too much.
Yeah. And so we can get creative in the sense of how we show our kids a path that we're gonna when we were growing up, when they wanted us to know about drugs and why we shouldn't take them, we had the DARE program, and we had the one commercial that I know you remember this.
Yeah.
The commercial with the egg that was saying, "This is your brain," and then it's scrambled and cracked,
and they throw it in a frying pan.
Yeah, this is your brain.
This is your brain on drugs.
Any questions? Yeah.
Any questions?
So I mean, we could get way more creative than that now, right?
Right.
And that's just. I mean, we're just talking about drugs here. There's, so many issues, especially in schools now, that kids are. It's hard. It is hard to be a kid now. In today's society with social media and kids getting phones early and early. We have that episode about technology, and so it makes it really hard for our kids to grow up in society. As parents, we have to be on top of these things. We cannot expect other people to raise our kids. That is our job. We can't expect teachers to raise our kids, their coaches to raise them. Yes, it takes a village, but we have to be the first point of contact when it comes to raising our own kid. They're our kids. God entrusted us to raise them.
They are our kids. So my question is about how do we combat the crutches? And when I say the crutches, I see a lot of people using these buzzwords, like depression and anxiety, and they're going the other way with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, well, I'm not doing this because of my anxiety, or I'm not going anywhere because of,
or I'm taking a mental health day.
I'm taking a mental health day, which is cool, because I used to take those at work all the time. So I'm not against mental health days at all. But when we use those things as crutches or excuses, right? Like, how do we combat that? Like, okay, you're taking a mental health day, but what are you doing for your mental health? Are you just taking a nap all day?
Right.
Are you, doing something that you enjoy? You know what I'm saying? Are you taking a break? Like, what can we do to combat when people are using these things as crutches, not necessarily,
Right.
being truthful?
So being true, right? So, I mean, a great way, especially for someone who's saying that, they're depressed. Like, when you're depressed, like really depressed, like, you don't want to do anything.
Correct.
Like some people do just want to sleep, or they want to just sit on the couch and veg out and watch countless episodes of whatever. That works to a certain extent, and it only pacifies what you're going through. It does not help it. It does not cure it.
Correct.
What can help is writing about it. So journaling. So
there we go.
Pick up a pen and a pad and really start writing down your feelings and your emotions and what you're going through.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
Yeah, and so just really digging deep within, instead of just not doing anything. I know it, and you have to make yourself do it, because again, like I said, if you're depressed, you're literally not going to want to do anything. Right. But if you want to combat, that feeling of depression, combat it with something positive, and start writing.
I like that. So we can. So that's it. That's one tool that we have in our wheelhouse that you're giving fathers, is to help them to write. That is amazing. Like, I was pulling out my phone, not to be rude, but I just wanted to know what version of iOS I have. On iOS version 17.4, they actually have a new journal app that's native to iOS.
Really?
Yeah. And
what's it called?
It's called Journal.
It's called
Journal. And
I have it.
Yeah, you have it. Right. You probably didn't even know.
I did not know.
But yeah, you can journal. It'll remind you to journal. You can do voice notes on here in your journal. And, I'll probably show it on the thing, but you can write. It'll give you suggestions. I'm reading this book right now called Accidental Genius, and it's talking about, just free writing, right? So free writing is where you don't think, right? You just write.
Okay.
Whatever's in your mind, you just write. And it doesn't have to be grammatically correct. It doesn't have to be, you don't want to think, because you want to get past what's called your automatic editor. Right? Because in our brain, we want to edit and we want to make it sound cool. We want to make it, but once you get past that, so one tool is to, set a timer for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Okay. And you just write what you feel for 10 minutes. Doesn't matter if it sounds cool. Doesn't matter if it's grammatically correct. Doesn't matter if your spelling is on, but you just write. And wherever your mind takes you, that's where you go. Right. And another way to do that is to use prompts. Right. So what's dope about this journal app is that it'll give you some prompts. Right. So you can say, what's something good about you that might surprise your friends? And you just, start writing about that. Okay. They even have AI suggestions on here, to where you can, it'll give you a prompt, right? And when you do these prompts, you want to make them open-ended. You want to say, if I had $1 million, I would, right? and then you just start writing for 10 minutes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If I could go anywhere, I would,
Right.
Just different prompts. Like yesterday, I wish I would have,
Okay.
And just being able to free write and free your mind of your overthinking. Because really, when you're depressed, you're overthinking.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You have a lot on your mind.
You have a lot on your mind. And, not saying that, and I'm not trying to minimize depression or minimize, the mental things that we go through. But a lot of it is the attack of the enemy. Let's just be 100%.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of it is the attack of the enemy on your mind. And so you have to renew your mind.
What did explain to everybody who the enemy is, for those who don't know.
The enemy is not because I just found out that Satan is a title, it's not a name. So, the devil, the evil ones, the evil spirits, spirits that are not with us but against us, right? The devil he only comes, he's not even showing up. That's what this verse says. Mm-hmm. He is only coming to kill, steal, and destroy. So that means the devil is not showing up unless he's coming to steal, kill, and destroy. And so everybody is using, I'm a demon when I do this. And you are inviting those spirits into your life when you are saying things like that. This is a whole nother conversation, yes. But it's life and death is in the power of the tongue. So you have to really be careful about what you say. I used to get on my kids all the time before they're saying yo, I'm gonna kill you, bro. Like I'm killing this and I'm gonna kill, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, yo, don't say that. Right. Because you are inviting those spirits into your life. Right. Like the devil doesn't have any power until we give it to him. Right. And so back to what I was saying, when we're dealing with depression, a lot of it is attacks of the enemy on our mind. And so free writing allows us to get past those thoughts. Right. You know what I'm saying? And just start writing it out and writing what we're feeling and just unedited, unadulterated. Yeah. We're just getting it out there. And as you do that, like you said, it's a very powerful tool.
It is. It really is. And I'm glad you brought this app up, because even for the younger children that we have, they know how to use devices, and it could be a talk to text sort of thing in the journal, right? To where they don't have to, write something. Yeah, they can just speak it, and it comes out as you're writing. I used to do a lot of audio notes. And voice notes on my phone. That app has always been there, right? Voice memos and all that. But now journal just takes it up a notch to where it is, writing out your thoughts, right? And you can kind of go back and look at your thoughts and then go from there and see where you were. You know what I'm saying? See where you were, and then 5 days ago, a week ago, a year ago, and then go from that. That's a great tool, y'all. That's a great tool.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up about writing, because that's something that I've been on. Just when you have doubt in yourself and when you have things that are going on, a lot of our thoughts are not our own. A lot of our thoughts are implanted in us by the things that we watch. Yep. The people that we are around,
the music we listen to.
I always caution my children, yo, man, whatever you listen to and whatever you're bringing into your body is going to come out of you. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you meditate on, it doesn't matter. Whatever you meditate on is going to come out. And how you speak, how you talk, how you move, how you dress, You know what I'm saying? So if you're studying the things of God all day, then that's what's going to come out.
Right.
If you are listening to whatever, little whoever all day, then, you know what I'm saying, then that's what's going to come out.
Right.
You're going to start talking like them. You're going to start, acting like them. And I mean, I used to listen to Pac all day. I used to listen to gangster rap all day.
Mm-hmm.
Like I used to listen to Dog Pound all day. You know what I'm saying? When I was a youngster. And so I think I told you in one of the other episodes, I thought I was a playboy. I thought I was a gangster. I thought I was, you know what I'm saying? I was like, I don't love these, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's how I was. But that's what I was listening to every day. And that's what everybody else around me was doing too. You know what I'm saying? And so we were, being affected, and we call it now. We call hip hop went through what's called a rape culture. You know what I'm saying, in the 90s. You know what I'm saying, where it was just cool. It was a different time. It was just cool to be disrespectful to women. To women, like it was just mad cool. And and I'm sure in hip hop now, I don't really listen to it like that anymore. But I know that in hip hop now, they're still being disrespectful to women. Right. But there was a time like where being emotional as a man, that just wasn't.
It wasn't a cool thing.
It wasn't cool.
It wasn't.
It wasn't cool. It wasn't cool to show your emotions.
Right.
Which is kind of weird because anger is an emotion, and so we all reacted to "Hit 'Em Up" by Tupac.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yep.
First of all, you know what I'm saying? Like we all reacted to that in an emotional way, but we look at, R&B dudes as being sensitive, you know what I'm saying? Because they're in touch with their emotions, but it's just a different emotion. It's all emotions, But yeah, so I don't know how we got on that, but we were just talking about writing. And then we're talking about, what you meditate on, and so back to, helping our kids with their emotions, we are the ones that need to be, influencing them as much as we can. We obviously they're at school, 8 hours a day or whatever, and so we can't necessarily influence them there. But what we can do is set them up for success. Right. So by journaling, by creating a safe space for them, by defining the emotional vocabulary, right? Any other tools that we talked about or that you have?
Another one would be getting them outside in the element, right?
Like outside in the elements or outside of their element?
Outside in the elements. Okay. So like
into nature.
Taking a walk, taking a hike, running, like all these, and just
physical activity,
being around God's creation, and it doesn't have to be physical. It could be you taking some paints and an easel and and painting something or drawing something outside. Just being outside in the elements. Okay. Feeling the sun hit your face. Like a lot of times when you're depressed, you don't want to go anywhere. You want to stay inside. Right. You get outside. Like COVID had us trapped inside. Correct. And it caused a lot of depression and anxiety in people. And they don't know how to get out of it. And they don't, and a lot of, it's crazy, but still, to this day, a lot of people still have that anxiety and fear instilled within them about COVID.
Hold up, time out. I'm sorry. Can you explain to me why people, and I still see this, people drive by themselves
with a mask on
in the car with a mask on?
It does not make any sense.
Okay, all right.
It makes
time back in. Go ahead. I thought it was just me because I still see that.
Still?
I still see that. Now, granted, this is not a knock on anybody. It's usually older people, and it's usually Asian older people. And this is not a knock against Asians. I'm just saying what I have witnessed. I'm not saying that they are the only ones, but I have seen when I see, and to be fair, I live in an older community with a lot of older Asian people. So this is just my experience from what I see around me. But I have seen a lot of people just out on the street riding around in the car by themselves.
I have seen a lot of older people in general do that as well.
Okay.
A lot of it has to do with two things. One, they believe everything they hear on the news.
Facts.
Stop. Okay. Number two, because they believe everything they hear on the news, they believe that they're the most susceptible ones of, contracting COVID or some whatever other disease or whatever virus, and they're not going to recover from it or they're going to die. So really and truly, in my opinion, that's the reason why.
That's so interesting. But, okay, cool. I get that. Now, I understand that. And so any disease, not just COVID, but the flu, all these diseases, they prey on weaker immune systems. That's a fact.
Yep.
Okay? Now, if you have a strong immune system, you want to work on your immune system, et cetera, et cetera. But that doesn't explain in the car. Like, I haven't even heard that as a thing of being in the car. Like, is it going to come up through the air ventilating system?
Now, I could say this. I could say they had the mask on when they were outside their car and they're so used to having their mask on that they
just left it. I've heard that one too. Now, the wife has said that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, maybe they just had their mask on and they just left it in.
Yeah, like,
okay, cool.
Forgot to take it off.
But like, I see this all the time.
I don't know.
This is 2024, 4 years later.
It's, I don't know. I mean, you know what? And I used to feel some type of way, or I used to have a comment about it, but now I don't. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna let them be.
I let them live. Like, this is not me complaining. This is more me trying to understand. I don't understand the logic behind. I understand everything you're saying about them being more susceptible because they're older. Like, I get that. Like I get it 100%. People are nasty. I get it. But in your car by yourself, with nobody else in there, and you're driving with the windows up.
This is what we got to do. Because we want to know. The next time we see it, we got to be like, yo, roll the window down. Be like, why is your mask on?
Nah, bro. You gonna do that?
I'm 100%.
Man, you gonna scare one of these people, man.
You gonna
scare one of these people. They gonna drive over. They gonna be like, oh my gosh. This is why I have my mask on, to stay away from people like you.
I won't do it. I mean, yeah. I mean,
I like I said, this is not me complaining. This is like, hey, you do whatever you feel is necessary, but I just don't understand the logic behind it. That's all. I'm just asking, and please put in the comments, if you know why. Maybe you have a parent or grandparent,
or if you're one of them
that does it. I haven't, even stuff on the news. Now, I don't watch the news all the time, but I haven't heard anything on the news, or even when COVID was at its height, that said that you can contract it in the car by yourself. And so you need to wear a mask in the car by yourself.
Do they even talk about COVID anymore on the news? I don't watch the news.
I don't know. But, I mean, they did for a long time, so it's definitely ingrained in people's heads.
Right.
Like, we're talking about it right now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not even about... It's not even about that. I just don't understand the logic. But I digress.
Yes.
So time back in. All right. Okay. Play ball. So now we're talking about helping the kids' emotional well-being. We talked about creating a safe space. We talked about writing, having them free write, having them do a journal. We talked about their emotional intelligence, and then you brought up the tool about getting them out in the world.
Yes.
I'm sorry, getting them out in God's green earth, so that they can see that they are very small. I'm not doing the Illuminati thing. Just a very small cog. I just want to make that clear. I wasn't trying to do that on purpose or nothing. They're a very small, piece of this entire world. Right. So, getting them out and letting them experience nature and God's world. Now, is any other tools that you have before we?
Yes. And so for me, this is always like last result. I mean, there's also for those who believe in God and have a relationship with God, you can always go directly to God, right? I don't like that should be first and foremost. And if you're raising your child to know who God is, that is amazing. Keep doing it, and let Him be the first point of contact, right? Everything else that we just talked about, that's second to God, right?
Always.
But then also, what I wanted to say is this would be the last thing that I would do, depending on whatever the situation was. Like there's always medicine, right? And sometimes people need medicine. Like you've done all the things, you've tried everything else, you've went the natural route, and sometimes like medicine just works.
So I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that, and not because I don't feel like medicine just works, but the effects of the mental medicine. And now I want to caveat this by saying, every situation is different. You have to do what's best for you and your child. This is just my undoctored opinion. As you said, it's a last result. A last resort. So what would you say, and how do you feel like the medicine works?
Well, I mean, it all depends on whatever the issue is at hand, right? If you have someone who is just like, let's just say, I mean, we've been talking about depression or anxiety, and they can't do anything. Sometimes it's okay to try medication to see if that will get them jump started somehow, some way.
Now, what about the chemical effects of the medicine and the dependency? So
the chemical effects, it's going to affect people differently.
Correct.
Right. So, and this is why I say, like, it's the last result, and for me and my kids, is because you don't know how it's going to affect your kids. You don't know
the side effects.
if they're going to need it for an eternity or whatnot. But if it's something that you want to try to get a jump start on getting out of that rut, then I'm okay with that. Haven't had to do it, thankfully, but I know people who have.
Right.
I know that it's worked for some people. I know that it didn't work for some people.
Right.
So yeah, it all depends.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm all about the side effects. That's what I go to when I look at the medicine, and I understand that, God made us all, right? And He made some people, advances in technology, and, He made certain medicines to do certain things. And He made us smart enough to be able to put chemicals together to make certain things.
Right.
I mean, you have to mix, the sulfur with this to make concrete, and you have to, mix certain elements to do all the things that we do in the world. So I'm not poo-pooing medicine. And like you said, it is a last result, because I keep on saying result, but last resort, because I see that it's being used very liberally in a lot of kids, and for a developing brain, like you said, you never know how it's going to affect them, and the side effects. Got to talk about the side effects.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be a hypocrite, because I'm getting on my mom. She's dealing with some cancerous things, and she doesn't want to take the cancer medicine. And I'm just like, Mom, like, it's a part of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, exactly what I said. Like, you know, there are people who are doctors, and God gave them the brain to, you know, come up with these different medicines that can help and blah, blah, blah. So I definitely don't want to be a hypocrite in that. But in kids, in their development, you know, it's a very touchy thing. And I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to sit here and try to pontificate on things that I know nothing about. So please, you know, let me know in the comments if you've had some success using depression drugs, if you've had some side effects using it, if any of these tips that we've given you today help, or if you tried any of those things. I'm definitely not sitting here saying like, oh, you just need Jesus and you don't take no medicine because, you know what I'm saying, like, that's
food too. Food's another.
Food is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's a whole nother
episode.
Yeah.
Because the foods that we give our kids is not even going to talk about it, because
we're going to talk about that another.
Yeah, that's a whole nother episode, because a lot of that has to do with the chemicals imbalance and balance of them, and the steroids and all the preservatives that they put in the food.
You already going on to the next episode.
My bad. Blah. So, like I said, hit us in the comments. Let me know, you know, if I'm tripping. I know I'm not, but I know he be tripping more than I do. So, no, it's playing. Just let us know, you know, what you think. Anything that you guys would like to talk about or like us to talk about as far as, you know, fathers. We're both businessmen, and we're fathers handling business. Like I said, I'm Dwyan, this is Donté, and we're going to catch y'all next time.
Peace.